Okay, good evening everyone, and welcome back to our PIRKEI AVOS shir. I'd like to start tonight in PIRKEI Aleph, the first chapter of PIRKEI AVOS, and we're in Mishnah number Hey. If you're looking in the art scroll print, it's on page 546, and he writes the following: Yosi ben Yochanan ish Yerushalayim Omer. Yosef ben Yochanan, the man from Jerusalem, said the following words: Yibeischa pasuach lervacha, your house should be wide open. V'yu aniyim b'nei veisecha, and the poor people shall be treated like members of your family. There's another half of this Mishnah, maybe we'll come back to that another time, but we're going to go with these two words, or these two lines over here. Yibeischa pasuach lervacha, your house should be wide open. And number two, the aniyim, the poor people, they should be b'nei besecha, they should be like the members of your house. Now this shir tonight really is inspired by a maisa, by a story that was told over about Reb David Feinstein Zatzal. We mentioned him last week, one of the great rabbis that passed away a couple of weeks ago, the son of Rav Moshe Feinstein. And after he passed away, they shared the following story. Several years ago, there was an organization that went around to many of the great personalities of the Jewish world in our generation, and they asked them the following question: if you could invite 3 people to your house and ask them to come to your house to join you for a meal, which 3 people would you choose? It could be anybody in all of history. Which 3 people would you choose? So of course the standard answers were, I would want Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov to come to my table. I'll take Moshe Rabbeinu at my table along with 2 other great personalities from the past. Some of them said even people more great personalities, more recent in time. But they came to Rav David Feinstein, and they asked if you could have any 3 people in the entire world, from all of history that there ever was, which 3 people would you invite to your house to join you for a meal? And without skipping a beat, Rabbi Feinstein answered, I would find 3 aniyim, 3 poor people who need a place to eat, and I would invite them to my house. Not the great people of previous generations, not the rabbis whose works fascinated me all of my life, not even my father, Rav Moshe Feinstein, the Malach Hashem, the angel of God, who raised me and who I lived with and I saw all of his glory, who I miss so much. If I could find any 3 people to bring to my table to serve them a meal, to enjoy their company, to sit with them, to talk with them, to laugh with them, to schmooze with them, I would take 3 aniyim, 3 people that I could find, and I would invite them to be my guests. Where does Rav David Feinstein come up with such ideas? It should be our Mishnah over here. And that is, Yibeischa pasuach lervacha, your house has to be wide open. The aniyim b'nei beisecha, and the poor people, they should feel as if they are members of your house. Now, who do we learn this from? Our sages tell us that shekavanas hatana shekol adam tzarich shebeisui kebeisa shel Avram Avinu. Everyone should try to make their house like the house of Avram Avinu, like of Abraham. Shaya pasuach la'arba ruchais. His house, we know that he had a tent. It was opened on 4 sides. Kedei shelo yitztarchu ha'orchim lachapes es ha'pesach, in order that the poor people should not have to look for the doorway in your house to be able to come in. When they came to the tent of Avram Avinu, they saw very clearly, no matter whatever direction they were coming in, if they were on the southern side of the house, they were on the north side, they were on the west, they were on the east, didn't matter. There was always an entranceway, and it was easy to come in there at all times. The mitzvah of hachnases orchim, of allowing people to come into your house, entering people into your home, in the eyes of Avraham Avinu was so primary and so valuable and important. He wanted to make sure that he did not lose out on a single opportunity to have a guest in his house. And therefore, on all sides, the tent was open. As it says in the Chumash over here, it says that Avram, the pasuk says, Vayita Eshel beBeersheva. Avram he planted an eshel. An eshel literally means a tree. In Beersheva, Vayikra Sham b'Shem Hashem Kel Olam, and he called out to God over there, the God of the universe. So Rashi brings down over here a machlekes, a dispute between Rav and Shmuel, and two of the great Tanoim, the great earliest of our sages. Chad Amar, one says, what was this eshel? What was this tree that he planted? One says it was a pardes, it was an orchard. It was actually not just one tree, it was the whole orchard. Lahavi mimenu peros laorchim b'seuda, so that it would grow trees, the luscious fruits, and he would go, then he would bring it to the guests when they were sitting and they were eating. That's one opinion. V'chad amar pundak lachsanya. The other one says, no, he made a tent, he set up shop. He had an inn that he made for his guests. Ubal mini peiros, and inside of that pundak, inside of that inn that he had where he was serving meals, all the different types of fruits and foods and delicacies, whatever you could imagine to serve to the people that were passing by, that was there. And he writes over here, you see that when it says that he planted, the word planted often is also associated with a tent, is pitching a tent. And therefore it means over here that Avraham Avinu was pitching his tent with four sides opened up to invite everybody in. So the sages tell us that the word Eshel, Aleph, Shin, Lamed, stands for, Aleph is Achila, eating, Shtia is for drinking, the Shin is for drinking, and the Lamed is for either Lina, for sleeping, or if they didn't want to go to sleep in his tent, at least Levi, he would accompany them out of the house. Avraham Avinu, when he had a guest that would come over, there were three things that he would do for this guest to make them feel comfortable inside of his house. He gave them to eat, he gave them to drink. If they were tired and weary, he gave them a place to sleep. And if they didn't need a place to sleep, at least when they were leaving the house, he would be malavid them, he would walk them at least 4 cubits out of the doorways of his tent in order that they should be on the way. Not that they felt they were leaving, not that they felt that they were being kicked out, not that they felt that they were on their own, but rather he would walk them step by step to make them feel as if they were welcomed any time that they want. And this, the Mishnah says over here, is where, and this the Rav is saying, that's what we learn this from in our Mishnah. The Mishnah is telling that Yas has to be open be'harvacha, wide open. This is not something so simple for us to swallow this in our day and age. There's a famous story with Rabbi Horowitz, who was the great mashkiach in the Mir. And he said over that when he saw the first lock placed on a front door in someone's house over there in Mir in Poland, he began to cry. He said, because if the world has progressed to such a time where we have to lock our doors, they can't just be open wide anymore for anyone who wants to come in and to benefit from our food, from our chairs, from our comforts of our home. He said, we're so worried about the thieves and the looters and everything. Said Rabbi Yerucham, that's a reason for a person to cry. Because from Avraham Avinu we see it was the exact opposite. The house was open wide, there was no alarm systems, there was no locks on the windows, there were no locks on the doors with special codes, key passes, you have to face recognition. That didn't exist. You want to come in? Come on in. You need a meal? Eat a meal. You need a drink? Come in, take a drink. You need to lay down, you've been walking for days on end over here, your legs are weary and exhausted, come and lay down, we'll take care of you, don't worry. But now it's not so simple. The doors are locked, the gates are locked. People are climbing over the fences over there to get into our homes to say hello. Says the Mishnah over here, our house is supposed to be open, lervacha, wide open. People should know that this is the place that I can come if I ever need anything. This is the place where you can get a meal. This is the place where you can get a drink, where you can just hang out and relax and schmooze, whatever you need. That's the place where it's going to be. And we learn it from our great forefather Avraham Avinu. The Rabbeinu Yoina and the Rambam say a little bit differently over here. And they say, what does it mean, lervacha? That it should be wide open? The word ravacha is the same word as ruach, as spirit, which means that your house, people who need to be infused with a good spirit, they will find it at your house. Now, what does that mean if they need to be infused with a ruach, with a spirit? It means that a person comes into your house and they know that whenever they walk into your house, they're always going to feel better. No matter what is going on in their life, no matter what difficulties they are confronting, no matter what challenges are in front of them, good, bad, whatever is happening, when they come in, no matter what they need, they know that they're going to find it in your house. As the real Ashka writes, Sherucha hayino, shetzarich lasei zerucha lekol adam. You have to give a ruach and a revach, you have to fill them up, each and every person. Im b'mamayin, if they need money, you give them a check. Im be'etza toiva, if they need good advice, you give them good advice. Im b'divrei nechumim, if they're having a rough time and a hard life and they just want to talk and they need some words of consolation, you give them words of consolation. L'kol echad, to each and every person, ma sheyigraim sheyarviach lai, whatever is going to cause them to be at ease and to feel opened up and not tight and clamped in the pressure that they have, that's what a person is supposed to give to their guests. Which means you have to be a very savvy person. You have to be able to size up the guest right away when they walk through the door. You have to look carefully at their stress, at their body language, at their face, at their appearance, and right away, or listen to what they're saying, listen to the jokes that they're making. Are they making sarcastic jokes about themselves? You have a husband and wife who come as a guest over there and they're making little tiny jokes between each other that really are not so funny. You have to listen. If a person listens carefully and they look carefully and they're in tune with the other person, you'll be able to give them the revach, you'll give them the space, you'll give them the comfort, you'll give them the warmth, the love, the concern, the care that they need. I just had the other day, there were two meshulachim, two tzedakah collectors that came to my house. And it's the times of COVID, so normally used to be that we would let them inside the house. Now it's not so clear that we always let them inside the house. They were already standing outside anyway, so I met them outside. And we schmoozed for about 15, 20 minutes perhaps, and they told me everything that was going on, why they were here collecting, what they need the money for. And I didn't do much. Honestly, I didn't do much. I stood there and I listened to their cause. I listened to what they were collecting money for. And even before I gave them a check, even before I even went into the house to get a check, they said to me, "Thank you so much." You know how many houses we come to? First of all, they don't let us in. And even the houses they let us, they talk to us, they don't even talk. They stick out the check. And even they talk, they don't even listen. "Thank you so much just for listening." I said, "Oh, so I don't have to write a check?" No, I didn't say that. I wrote them a check anyway to make them feel even better. And that's what it's saying over here. People come, they enter your house. They come, they need to rest their legs and rest their body and rest their spirits and rest their souls and rest their pressures. Our job is lirvacha, to give them that space, to give them that latitude or that platform that they need over here to be able to feel relaxed and at ease and at peace. That's the first part of this Mishnah over here. But the second part of the Mishnah, once that a person's house is open wide, it's not only open wide for your family, for your friends, for your relatives, for your neighbors, for the people that you're comfortable with. Then that's really what the next part of the Mishnah is talking about over here, is that a person's house must be open wide so that the aniyim, the poor people, they feel b'nei beisecha, they feel like they are the members of your house. They can't tell the difference between the way you treat them or the way you treat your own children. There's a famous story of the Brisker Rav, who was one of the great Torah giants of his generation. Maybe it even goes back to his father, Reb Chaim. And his house was lirvach, it was wide open to everybody. And all of the people in the town that needed a place to come, whether it was for a meal, was to sit down, it was to chapas shmuz, to talk, whatever it was, everybody was welcomed in their house. And he was the Rav of the town, and there were always, not in all generations, there's always stragglers, and I guess we'll call them miskanim, nebach type of a people with difficulties going on in their life. Some of them are unkept, and some of them are not so clean, and some of them don't smell so good, and some of them are dirty, and some of them are strange and weird, and they scream and they yell, they do all different things. And Reb Chaim Soloveitchik allowed anyone who needed to come into their house. The door was always open, they were always welcome. His children started getting a little bit disappointed in their father's chesed activities over here, because every time they turned around, there was somebody else that was in the house. So they came to their father one time and they said, Tati, it's very nice that you are such a machnes orech, you let so many people in the house, and you do so much chesed, you make everybody feel so good. But what about us? You know, these people, they're traipsing all around our living room and our dining room. They didn't have big houses back then. They're all over the place, so we have no place to be. So the father said to his children, if that's the case, then maybe you should go look for another house to live in. He says, because this house is wide open. And I want the aniyim, I want the poor people, that they should feel comfortable in my house like everybody else, as if they're my own children. Otherwise they'll be embarrassed. Otherwise they'll be shamed. Otherwise, they'll never feel comfortable to use the things that we have over here. They won't eat comfortably. They won't eat with a zest, because they're always going to be worried that we don't really want them here. And therefore, they have to be comfortable. There was a book that was put out about 3 years ago, I believe. It was called Amuna and Chicken Soup, I think is the name of it, about Rebbe's and Machlis. Henny Machlis, her and her family, I think they have something, maybe 10, 12 children in a small, ample-sized apartment in Yerushalayim, in Jerusalem, and they were known as the Chesed family. The amount of hachnasas orchim, of kindness that went on over there, the guests that were coming in and out. I was there myself maybe 25 years ago for a Shabbos. It's a sight that I will never ever forget. I believe there were approximately 100 people in that apartment that Friday night for the Shabbos meal, and the kids were running around, schlepping tables, setting up the chairs, bringing the food, and everybody was getting, it was an unbelievable experience. So they were well known that anybody who needed a place could always come to their house. And the door was always open, literally the door was always open, and at all hours of the night sometimes they would hear the front door creaking open, and they would see somebody, once they had a guest and the guy didn't have a place to sleep, he would come and they would sleep on the couch. They'd wake up in the morning, the people sleeping on the couch. And these people, sometimes they were not the greatest of, most upstanding of citizens, but they always felt in the Machlis house they had a place to come. There was a tzedreita mensch, as we would say in Yiddish. There was a guy that was not all there. And he loved Rebbe's and Machlis's whole wheat, homemade pizza. And he could not get enough of it. And whenever he would come, he would always ask her, could you please make me that whole wheat pizza? So she said, you know what, Yankel, one time he came, he says, you know what, Yankel, let me show you how to make the pizza. And whenever you want, come to the kitchen, come into the house, take the dough, take the tomato sauce, take the cheese, make it for yourself. You know how to turn on the oven, let me show you. She shows him how to turn on the oven, how to make the pizza. Whenever you want, Yankel, come over and you can make the pizza for yourself. You don't need me to make it all the time. So she showed him step by step how to make the flour. How to make the dough. She made the dough. She showed him where the tomato sauce was, where they kept the cheese, how to spread everything on, how to heat up the oven, where the pans were for the milchiks, and then she showed him how to make the pizza. And he said, thank you so much, Rebbetzin. The next time I come, I won't bother you. I'll be able to make it myself. I don't know what it was, a month, 2 months, 3 months later. It's 3 o'clock in the morning in the Machlis house. Everybody is fast asleep. And suddenly they hear rummaging in the kitchen. And Yankel comes to make the pizza, but he just cannot remember the recipe. What's he going to do? Oh, what happened over here? Hold on. So what's he going to do? He says, I came here, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm hungry, I want pizza. So what do you do in the Machlis house at 3 a.m. when you can't make your own pizza? You knock on the Rebbetzin and the rabbi's door and ask them for help. So at 3 o'clock in the morning, he starts knocking on the door. And Rabbi Machlis gets out of his bed, and Rabbi Machlis is a very mild-mannered, tzaddik of a person, and he sees this bedraggled person standing at his door. He says, what do you want? He says, whole wheat pizza. He said, at 3 o'clock in the morning? He said, I forgot how to make it. Your wife showed me, I forgot how to make it. He said, go. He says, tomorrow come back, we'll make you pizza tomorrow. And Rabbi Machlis gets out of the bed. She puts on her robe. She tells her husband, it's okay, I'll take care of it. She walks out of the room with a smile on her face. Yankel, you want pizza? Did you forget how to make it? He said, I'm so sorry. Don't worry. Come, let me show you one more time. And there at 3 o'clock in the morning in the Machlis kitchen, the Rebbetzin is kneading the dough and she's making everything, the crust and the sauce and the cheese. And she heats the oven, she puts it in. And she waits till it's ready and she serves it to this man, Yankel over here. And then she says, okay, everything is good now? He says, yes, Rebbetzin, thank you very much. Okay, I'm just going to go back to sleep now. The aniyim, the poor in your town, the poor that come to your house, the bedraggled mention of this world, they should feel b'nei beisecha, they should feel no less than your own child. For your own child at 3 o'clock in the morning, if he wants pizza, you'll make him pizza. He's your child. And if Yankel wants pizza at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you know how much it means to him, has to be like he feels like he's your ben bayis, like he's a child in your house, you have to take care of them as well. Now, what are the advantages of living such a selfless life? Besides that you get woken up at 3 o'clock in the morning to make pizza. Besides that your children might say, hey, why are all these strange people in our house over here? What are the advantages over here? What does a person gain? So Rabbi Nachman of Breslov says over the following idea on this Mishnah. And he says like this. He says, he says, everybody should hear about your house and know about your house, that it's wide open. Again, like I said, you'll have to figure out how to do it in our generation. It is not so simple with all the doors and the gates and the locks and the guards and the guns, the signs in there. Owner has a gun. Okay, so it's not going to work to make people feel comfortable coming into your house. We'll have to figure out how we're going to do it. But the kavanah, the intent of our homes is that they should be comfortable for anyone who needs a place to come to that house. And then he says like this, if a person does this, if you open up your house for anyone, and especially over here, your house becomes somewhere where the poor people are comfortable, then you should know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to shower down on you and your home an abundance of blessing, of goodness. As he writes over here, Ki be'israsusa de l'sata is'ar de le'ela. there's a concept, a Kabbalistic concept, that we do work down here, and it triggers the blessings above, and then HaKadosh Baruch Hu from above, He brings down to us over here all the good things that we need. Now listen to these words. Kesha Adam Paisech es Pischa L'Koil. When a person opens up their doorway to everyone, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Paiseach Psachim L'Mayla Bishvaloi, Hashem will open openings above in the heavens, Utfilasai Nishma'as, and your prayers are going to be heard. V'zacher Tisko es Imas Tzadikim. He says, remember, don't forget the famous statement of the righteous, the tzaddikim, Sha'amro, and he says it over here in Yiddish, I will try but then translate. And he says, Azman effent oifatir zu digas, when a person opens a window to the street, effent men oif in Fenster in Himmel, HaKadosh Baruch Hu opens a window in the heavens. When you make an opening, you open up that door, you open up that window, you open up your doorway to the street so anybody who wants to can walk in, then you should know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to open up a window in Shemayim, which means, Hainu, when you open up your house to all of those embittered souls, and you listen to their problems and to their sorrows, to their pain. Doesn't mean you just let them come in the house, sit them down at the table, give them a meal to eat, and say, have a good day. You have to sit down. You have to listen. You have to hear what they have to say. You have to commiserate with them. You have to empathize with them. You have to feel the pain that they're in. In this manner, HaKadosh Baruch Hu then is going to open up a window in the heavens. You will be able to ask from Hashem for whatever it is that you want. And therefore your house should always be opened, and you should get accustomed to having it that way. And if you're home, don't send your child to the door or your maid to the door to tell the person, oh, I'm sorry, my father's not available right now, while your father's sitting right next to you. Just tell them I'm not here. You can't do that. Your house has to be a place where it is comfortable, where people feel that they can come. And then he writes, fine. If a person does such a thing, unfortunately the punishments could be great, God forbid. Rather, he says, you should be accustomed, your children should be accustomed, of course, when you're around, not when strangers are coming to the door. You have to do it in the right way. Baruch haba Hashem, Hashem, come inside. Blessed is the name of God. Come inside with Hashem's blessing. That's the way. Again, maybe in Europe it was easier. Maybe in the 1960s and 70s it was easier. In 2020, in the Wild West that we live in over here in Los Angeles and the rest of the world, it's not so simple. However, he writes over here, that's one of the reasons we have a mezuzah on our doorway, so that when the poor Jewish aniyim, the poor Jews are passing through town, and they need something, they're in distress, they need tzedakah, they need a meal, they need a place to rest, and they look and they see the mezuzah on the door. Oh, maybe over there they'll take care of me. Maybe over there they'll give me a little bit of money to help me out with the tragedy that I'm going through. Maybe I haven't eaten in 3 days. Maybe they'll give me something to eat over here. So whatever we could do to make our houses comfortable for others, that at least a person has to try and make the effort to do. There's a story that took place from before the war, before the Holocaust, of a chashav, a tzaddik and a tzaddikis, a very noble and righteous husband and a wife, who they made their house, according to this Mishnah over here, it was open constantly, and it was always open to the poor. The poor felt very comfortable there. And they would bring in the poor people constantly into their house for meals, for sleeping if they needed, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, whatever was needed, they would take care of them. The Rebbetzin of that house was a very big tzaddikus, and she put up with a lot of difficulties with the poor. Whether it be their stench, their dirtiness, their behavior, their craziness, whatever it was, she never complained. And at the end of every day, after the last of their guests would leave the house, she would scrub down all of the chairs in the dining room because there was so much lice that these poor men had from traveling around the streets and wearing old clothes. The lice was everywhere. But she and her husband, they never complained. They knew there was lice. They knew it was very unsanitary. They knew that it was not so comfortable. But they never ever complained at all because this was part of the mitzvah that they had to take care of the poor. The war breaks out, and they go to the concentration camps, and the husband and the wife were separated from the camps, and they went through hardships and suffering and beatings and starvation and you name it, all the stories that you're aware of. And after the war was over, miraculously they both survived, and miraculously they found each other. And when they found each other, they both had an important part of the story to share. And they said that they were in the concentration camps, and it was very well known that in those camps where they were not bathing regularly, and they wore that same dismal outfit every single day, and the sanitary conditions were unsanitary to say the least, and they were dirty and they were filthy and they were drained of everything, it was very well known that the lice in those barracks was so bad that very often people were crawling with lice constantly. Anybody remembers the great tzaddik who used to come to our town over here and stayed in our house several times, Rav Chaim Halpern? He went through 17 concentration camps. And he said that at one of the camps, the lice was so bad that it actually got under the skin. And it was almost impossible to remove the lice that was there. The husband and the wife testified upon themselves that with everything they went through, not one single lice ever stayed on them. They were never affected or afflicted by lice all of the years that they were in the camps. Everybody else was scratching and crawling and teeming with the lice. Both of them testified on themselves, and they shared it with each other. They never suffered from lice. And they realized it was that if you open up your Pesach, you open up your doorway here in this world, HaKadosh Baruch Hu opens up the chalayin, He opens up the window in Shemayim. He will take care of you. You let the poor come in, you let the bedraggled come in, they come in with their dirt and their smell and their scraggly clothes, and they come in with their lice and everything else on top of it. And you don't say a word. You feed them, you nourish them, you sit at the table, you listen to their tales, you listen to their woes, you nod your head, you say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, it's terrible." You give them a meal, you give them maybe a little check at the end of the night, and you don't say anything about the lice that they left over, and you scrub down the chairs every single day. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't forget. And therefore, if you do down here, He'll take care of you from above. Says Rabbi Nachman over here, you know why the poor should feel so comfortable in your home? As the truth of the matter is, we're all anim, we're all poor. In the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like an ani shedeifik ala delis, we're like a poor man that's knocking on the door. We come to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we ask Him, please give me this, please give me that, please take care of this situation, please help me out with this. We have so many riches of mitzvahs in our hands. We're millionaires of chesed. We're billionaires of brachos. We are zillionaires of Shabbos. No, we're not. We all know that in whatever it is that we've accomplished in our lives of Torah and of mitzvahs, it's just a drop in the bucket of what we need to. We're all aniyim, we're all poor, we're impoverished in these areas. And then we stand before our Kodesh Baruch every single day. Shachris, Mincha, Mariv. We ask Him 19 brachas that He should give us. Constantly. We have things that we're going through in our lives and we're begging, please, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, take care of me. Don't forget about me over here. Hashem says, you're a poor man. What do you have to show for yourself? Oh, you take care of the aniyim down here. You take care of the poor down here. You opened up a Pesach. You opened up a doorway for them. They came to your house. They felt comfortable, taken care of. They felt mamish like your child. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in Himmel, in the heavens, the challah in the window just opened up. And your tefillah, your prayers, they're going to go straight through. And I will take care of you, you impoverished individual. The way that you took care of the impoverished individuals, my children here in this world. A person who takes care of the needy, a person who takes care of the downtrodden, a person who lifts up the broken of spirit, they never lose out. It's time consuming. Yes, it comes usually at the time that you're not ready for their phone call. And now, of course, in the days of caller ID, such a horrible thing. We choose our chesed. We choose who is going to have the privilege of hearing my voice answer on the other end of the phone. You know, Mengele, I'd just give a gross example of it, but Mengele used to go like this. Right, left, right, left, right, left. We're swiping on the phone. Oh, I'm not in the mood to talk to that person right now. Don't bring them into your house. But maybe the person who's calling you right now, maybe that person, he just needs to talk 5 minutes, or maybe 10 minutes, or maybe by the time you look, 29 minutes and 17 seconds. Was I really on the phone that long? But you never know what you lifted up that person in that conversation. Even if you don't even say a word sometimes, they just have to talk. That's also a poor person. So they're not walking around in tattered rags. They're not walking around dirty and smelly. Baruch Hashem, they have a nice house and they have a nice car and a shower and the soap just takes care of all the dirt at the end of every day. No problem. Their clothes just came back from the cleaners, pressed, double pressed. Nothing to worry about in that area. But a person who is miserable about something, a person who is downtrodden about something personal in their life, that's anius, that's poverty. Spiritual poverty, emotional poverty. All these things, it's part of the poverty of this world. And if you can take care of them and they know that they can always call upon you when they need to hear your voice, they need to hear your support, they need to hear that you care about them and you think about them, that itself is a way that a person could fulfill the words of this Mishnah. We don't live in a world where we feel comfortable leaving our doors unlocked. We're not going to build a tent like Avram Avinu that's open on all four sides. Anybody who wants can walk in. We're not holding over there. We're too worried. We have to have everything is under lock and key. We're lucky that we get let into the house at the end of the day. So, but at least take a phone call. At least say hello, how are you? So spend 5 minutes on the telephone with them. And after 5 minutes, say, I give them a bracha, I wish you well, everything should be good. We'll talk again soon. Keep me posted. Let me know what happens. That's all that people need. Few moments of your time to feel validated. To feel that they are b'nei beisecha. They know that you would take the call for your child. You'll take the call for your relative. You'll take the call for a sibling. Why can't you take the call for somebody else? And perhaps if we do that, then the psachim, the windows in the heavens, those are going to be opened up for us. And whatever it is that you ask for, whatever it is that you need, whatever it is that you're struggling with, ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and Hashem will say, you take care of the aniyim, you take care of the impoverished down here in this world, Again, it doesn't have to be a meal, it doesn't have to be a bed, it doesn't have to be a check for tzedakah. You listen to the Mari Nefesh, you listen to their embittered souls. You listen to what it is that they're going through. You made them feel better. I hear you, says Hashem. I want to make you feel better also. Many years ago in Yerushalayim, there was a family, the Haber family. Rabbi Yaakov Haber was a young man learning in Kollel at the time. Today he's a big Rav in Eretz Yisrael. He was a young man learning in Kollel, and he and his wife, young, idealistic people, and they started having children, and it was building a beautiful family. And they were idealistic to the extent that when they would hear about the impoverished people in the streets of Jerusalem, if they needed a meal, they needed something, they were very happy to help them. Well, there was one ani, there was one poor man who really felt very, very comfortable in their house. They satisfied the words of this Mishnah to the greatest degree, and they always made this man feel comfortable. And it wasn't like a 5-minute, 20-minute, 30-minute visit. This man, I think his name was Mordechai, he would come to their house, he would knock on the door, oh, Mordechai, come on in, and he would sit down, and they would serve him some food. But he didn't eat right away. He would talk with them, he would tell them stories, he would talk about his life. And they would sit, in the beginning, they were so young and idealistic, and they were so nice and cheery and smiley, they enjoyed it. They would think to themselves, what a chesed we're doing for this man. But as time went on, they realized he didn't understand that he wasn't like always welcome in their house. And he would come sometimes at surprising moments. One year Hanukkah was coming, and it was one of the first or second nights of Hanukkah. They had this young couple, they were so excited to light the menorah together. They had a couple of little babies, I think, in the house. And right before Rabbi Heber is about to go and light the menorah, suddenly there's a knock on the door. They open up, Mordechai. Hi, it's Hanukkah. I thought I would come in and say hello to wish you a Freilich and Hanukkah. Happy Hanukkah. You have latkes tonight. There's jelly donuts. What do we have tonight on the menu? And they said, come in, Mordechai, please. Our house is wide open for the poor. Come join us. And so their private lighting of the menorah, which they were looking so much forward to, suddenly became three's a crowd over here. And Mordechai was there, and he sat with them, and he sang with them, and he told stories, and he shared his woes and all the different things that were going on in his life. And they didn't know how to get rid of him. And it was getting very challenging because he was just coming more and more and more. Well, Baruch Hashem, their family was growing, and the little apartment that they had was too small for them, and they decided they had to move. So they looked around somewhere in that area, not so far away from where they were. They were looking for a new apartment. And finally, somewhere, maybe it was a half a mile, 2 miles away from where they were, they found a larger apartment that suited their needs much better. And Rabbi Heber and his wife came up with a very sad plan. They said, listen, there's one way to get rid of Mordechai. We'll move to the new apartment. We're not going to tell him where we're moving to. He'll probably come to the house, he'll see that we moved, he'll realize we moved, we didn't have a chance to say goodbye, and then he'll never come back again. And we'll have our privacy again, we'll have our time with our children again, it'll be perfect. His wife said, Yaakov, are you sure? I mean, it's chesed. He says, listen, what's our choice? He's overstepped his bounds, we've given him hints, we've told him he doesn't understand. What's our choice? Okay, she said. So they packed up their belongings, they moved to the new apartment. Ba'ashkacha, the way that it worked out, Mordechai didn't come around for that week or two that they were packing, and then they moved. And they get to the new apartment, it's so spacious and so comfortable. The kids are happy, they're happy, everything is great, and there's no Mordechai. One day, they walk into their apartment, and the baby is sleeping in the crib, and they go in to check on the baby, and lo and behold, the wife sees there is a scorpion crawling on the floor. She lets out a scream, and her husband comes running. What's the matter? She says, look, a scorpion. Scorpion in our apartment, where did that come from? So they catch it with some kind of a vessel or something, and they get it out of the house. Strange. We never see scorpions around here. The next day, they come into the apartment again, and they go to check on their child, and once again, not one, but there's several scorpions crawling on the floor. They begin screaming their heads off. What's going on over here? So they call the scorpion busters over there. They come down. They take a look at everything. They spray the place down. Okay, they tell them, ma'am, you should be fine. But it doesn't stop. Until it gets to the point that one day, when they walk into the baby's room, they see that there are so many scorpions there that they actually begin crawling up the legs of the crib. They whisk the baby out of there and they run out of that and say, what in the world is going on over here? So Rabbi Heber wasn't a dumb man. He said, Hashem sends us signs. This is so unusual, it's so bizarre, so out of the norm. It cannot be that this is happening for no reason. I must go and consult with my Rebbe. So he goes to the great tzaddik of Yerushalayim, Rav Scheinberg Zatzal, the famous rabbi who wore about 100 pairs of tzitzis. He wore his tefillin all day long. He was a man of tremendous kedusha. And he comes to Rav Scheinberg, and he says, listen, we moved to this new apartment. It's so spacious, so nice, so beautiful. We're so excited to be there. But we've got a problem. We are infested with scorpions. No other apartments have it. It's not in the streets. It's only in our apartment. Rebbe, what is the message? So Rav Scheinberg said, do me a favor. You see that sefer over there on the shelf? It's called PIRKEI AVOS. PIRKEI AVOS is a famous work that goes all the way back. It is said to go back to the days of David HaMelech, King David, which is a book that is the song of every animal in this world. Every animal has a song, and we don't hear, we're not so attuned to it, but every single animal has songs and praises that it sings to Hashem. And the songs and praises that the animals sing are always based on verses that we have somewhere in the Torah. So Scheinberg opens up the PIRKEI AVOS, and he turns to the scorpion. And the verse that it quotes for the scorpion is, V'rachamav al kol ma'asav. And you should have mercy on all of your creations. So Rav Scheinberg looks at Rabbi Yaakov Heber and he asks him, is there anyone that you can think of in your life that you did not have the proper amount of mercy on? Is there anyone in your life that you can think of that perhaps you were actually cruel to? Maybe therein lies the answer to your scorpion problem. And it hits Rabbi Heber like a ton of bricks. Mordechai, we were so mean. We left our house. We didn't tell him where we went because we were trying to avoid him and not have mercy on him. This poor man, we're like the only people that he feels comfortable at. Oy, Gewalt's terrible, he says. I know exactly what you're talking about. Rav Scheinberg said, go and find that person. And when you find that person, make sure that you have rachma, make sure you have mercy on him. Rabbi Heber gets into a bus, and he decides he's not getting off the bus until he finds Mordechai. So he's got his head perched out the window over there of the bus, driving in the streets of Jerusalem. And as they're driving down one of the streets, lo and behold, he sees Mordechai. And he yells out, Mordechai, Mordechai. Mordechai looks and he's waving, yeah, it's me, it's me. The bus stops, he gets off, he says, Mordechai, we miss you. We moved our home, we couldn't find you, please come back. He says, really? I didn't know what happened, I thought you forgot about me. No, please, we want you to come back to our house, please. Come home for dinner tonight. And Rabbi Heber brings him home for dinner that night. And they listen to his stories, and he's there for extra time, and he's going through the apartment, how beautiful it is. And they never had another scorpion in their life. You open up the psachim, you open up the pathways down here in this world. You open up the doorways, you open up your heart and your eyes and your mouth and your soul. You open it up to the aniyim, to the poor, to the impoverished, whether it's physically, monetarily, spiritually, emotionally. You open up for them. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu will open up a chaloin. He'll open up a window in Shemaim in the heavens, and he'll rain down all the bracha, all the blessing, all the goodness into our lives. We should be Zaychim Yitzhak Hashem to find the way. Again, it's not easy in our times with the locks and the alarms and the security systems that are running around and the patrol that's going down every single street, making sure that everything is locked up under key. We'll do our best. When you invite guests, let them feel comfortable. There's a beautiful story with Rabbi Pesach Kron's father. His father had a very great affinity for one of the great darshanim, one of the great orators from Eretz Yisrael, Rav Shalom Shwadron. And when he came to America, he said, this man's going to stay in my house. And when they would travel in those days from Eretz Yisrael to America back in the 50s, they would come not for 1 or 2 weeks, they would come for a long time. They had a lot to do after the journey from the bus or from the boat. So he came to America, and Pesach Ron's father said, come, you're going to come and stay in our house. And before he even got there, he'd set up the attic for him perfectly. There was a bed, there was a table, there was a chair, there was a desk. He put a phone up there. And he told him, listen, Rabbi Shwadron, make yourself at home. I want you to feel comfortable. Whatever you need, it's all yours. There's one condition. It's $10 a night to stay in my house. $10 a night? I thought you were doing a chesed. Yeah, I know, but we have to defer the cost. $10 a night to stay in my house, which was no small change back then. But he's already set up, and he saw how much this man wanted him to stay at his house. So he agreed. And he stayed in his house, I believe, for 3 months. So you'll do the math, it's a lot of money back then. At the end of the 3 months, when Rav Shwadron was getting ready to leave the house, Pesach Kron's father comes to him, he says, Rebbe, this is for you. And he hands him an envelope that's overflowing with cash. And he says, what is this? He says, this is all the money that you paid me for rent over the last 3 months. He said, but I paid you. Why are you giving it back to me? He said, you think I would charge you? I would charge you money to stay in my house? Never in a million years. So Rav Shwadron said, so then why did you ask me for the money if you're going to give it back to me? He said, because I knew that if you just felt like a guest in my house, you would feel that you were taking advantage of me. You wouldn't make yourself as comfortable as you possibly could. If you were hungry, you wouldn't go to the fridge and take something to eat. If you needed to make a phone call, you wouldn't lift up the phone without asking. So I asked you to pay me everyday rent. Why? So that way you would feel that you had a portion in my house as well, and you'd be as comfortable as if you were in your own house. But Rebbe, there's no way that I'm taking this money. Here's the money back. I'm glad that you felt comfortable in my house. People come over, they have to feel comfortable. People call, they have to feel that they're not a burden on you. There's those people that you're always waiting for the conversation to end, and they sense it in your voice. They hear in your voice, oh, okay, I gotta go right now. Well, we just started, I know, but I have another line coming, and I'm sorry, I have to go. Hold on just 1 second. Oh, it's an important call, I have to go. Let people feel comfortable. Let them know that you're listening to them. What does it take? 5 minutes of your life. I have my Rosh Hashiva in Baltimore, Rav Aaron Feldman. He was the master. Anybody could come into his office, unload anything they need to speak about anything. And he was a busy man with a busy schedule. A lot of people had to come and speak to him. He had a way of always letting you know the conversation was over, but never making you feel bad. He would glance at the clock that was behind you on the wall. He would give you that look that you knew that your time was up. He would give you his final words of encouragement, of advice, and then you knew it was time to leave. You never felt thrown out. You never felt that he wasn't giving you the time that you needed. If you needed extra time, you got extra time. But there's a long line of people that are waiting. So as long as we don't make the person feel unwanted and unloved and uncared for, 5 minutes, it works out great. We should be Zaychem Yitz Hashem, that we should spend our time and our caring wisely for the members of Klal Yisrael, for those people who are the downtrodden of spirit, of emotions, of finances, of health, whatever it is. And if we will do that correctly, Be'ez Hashem, then just as we opened up our doorways and our hearts for the aniyim, for the poor that are down in this world, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will open up the chalaynais, He'll open up the windows in Shemayim, and He'll shower the blessings down upon us, our families, and all of Klal Yisrael. Have a wonderful night, everyone.